Right, so what we're going to look at very quickly is quantizing and some of the fun things that you can do with quantization. And then, sorry. So what we're going to look at is using quantize. And quantize is a function that will help you to line up all of your music. So if you want it to sit perfectly on that grid, because maybe you've played it in, or even if sometimes if you've drawn it in and it hasn't sat quite perfectly, you can use this function in order to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some music in. It's probably not going to sit on the beat properly. And then I'm going to quantize it to make sure that it sits perfectly on the beat. And then we're going to look at some of the other things that we can use quantize to do, because it will help us add things like swing, or if you've used triplets, it will help tidy those up as well, because they can be difficult to tidy up without using this twist on that function. So the first thing I'm going to do is just play in a very simple thing. I'm going to reset my quantize actually back to where I want it. If it will let me, it won't let me. So I'm just going to play something in, and then I'm going to quantize it, and we'll see how all these functions work. So I did play about with something a second ago. So there we go. I have a nice little pattern there, and we can already see I have one note that I shouldn't have hit. Now, quantize, if it's off, is here. If I don't do anything and I push Q on the keyboard is a shortcut for quantize. If I push that, nothing is going to happen just now because I don't have anything selected. So if we take a look at these ones here, oh, that's loud. If we take a look at these and I push quantize, you should see them all shift a little bit. Oh, no, I've turned quantize off, that's why. I'm going to move it to 16th note, because I think, there you go, you can see them all snap into place there as well. So if I just undo that and then push Q again, you see them snap into place. Now let's take a quick listen to that. That's pretty much the rhythm that I was after. So I can just select all of these. That's very loud. I'm going to mute it for now. I select all of those. I'm going to hit Q, and hopefully they've all snapped into the right place. But obviously the only way that I'm going to know if that is correct or not is to listen to it. It's actually done a really good job there. So that has instantly tidied up my music, and it sounds exactly where I want. You can see that it's all sitting on the grid here, exactly the way that you would want as well, which is really going to help whenever it comes to if you need to export a score. Things will just be a bit clearer and a bit easier to read. If they were sitting off the grid, then a lot of these values would start to, the notes would be tied, and it would be very messy and very difficult to read. So you will be asked at times for the actual music notation of whatever it is that you've created. So you want to make sure that it's quantized and that all your notes sit pretty much evenly within these square values that you have here in Logic. If they don't, then what you run the risk of is that it's going to start dotting some of these notes like it has here. And if they weren't supposed to be dotted, you're going to run into problems. It will be read incorrectly and marked incorrectly. So just make sure that it is the way that you want it to be. So one of the other things that we can do with quantize is we can add a little bit of creativity. So we can make our music sound a little bit different. And we have different options here. We have triplets, we have swing, tuplets. We have a lot of different values here. So if I select all of these, do Command A, and I go to this, I'm going to press 16th triplets, and you can see how it's just shifted everything a little bit into a more kind of triplet format, and we'll see what it sounds like. It's not great. It's not exactly doing what I want, so I'm just going to do Command Z to undo that. It takes me back to my original rhythm. It didn't do anything that I liked to it. So I'm going to try something else now, and I'm going to go down to swing, and I'm going to try this one here, swing D. And you can see they've shifted a little bit again, and if I give that a little play, we'll see what it sounds like. So it's done a nice little bit of swing there. Let's see what swing E does. I kind of maybe prefer that. Actually, I think swing C has probably got it for me. And you can see it's only just slightly swung off the grid there. So it's added a little bit of swing to it, not an awful lot. But I'm actually going to go back and just stick it regular. So if you're struggling to come up with some creative rhythms, what you can do is put in something that's very rigid to the beat. And then you can play around with the functions in Quantize, play around with the triplets and play around with the different swing rhythms that they've got there. And that will hopefully give you a way of finding another way for your rhythms to sound without you having to do that creative part and figure out how to either play or write that in. And it will do everything for you. So that's one creative way for you to use Quantize. I would certainly recommend that you use Quantize for everything that you do, because if you don't, notes will slide off this grid. They'll get cut off because they were played too soon or they were played too late. So make sure that everything that you do is quantized and that it sits to that grid anytime you're doing it, because when you copy and paste these sections again and again and again, so I'm going to copy that, I'm going to paste. If they're not quantized properly, then you're going to run into problems. And I suspect from looking at mine, I may run into a problem there. So that's Quantize and how to use it creatively, not only to line your work up the way that you wanted it to sound, but to maybe find some other ways of making your work sound a bit more advanced rhythmically. And you can see already at bar 21 it's already slid off, so I've made a mistake somewhere. I suspect it's just that this wasn't quite long enough whenever I recorded. So that's the first thing to do. And whilst I'm on that point, if you're having struggles trying to get these to sit perfectly on the grid, look, it's not going to do it. It's because this smart function up here, it's called snap, and what it means is it's going to snap to these lines. But there's different ways that it does that, and unfortunately the smart one is actually not that smart. So what you want to do is change it to snap regions to absolute value. And what it'll do there is now, if I move it, you can see it's lined up perfectly on that line. It's not a little bit off, it's perfectly on that line. So if you're having trouble with things not sitting on the lines where you've moved them to, change this smart snap here to snap regions to absolute value, and that should fix that problem for you, and everything after that should line up perfectly, hopefully, if you've recorded it properly. Okay, so that's the Q function and how to fix any issues with your snap function there.